Kingdom Hearts 3 is an interesting case in terms of how everyone perceives the game. Some say it's the worst one yet, and some say it's the best one yet. I for one have an interesting take on the game that many of you will probably already think is negative and bandwagoning video, which you have every right to believe that, but it's not exactly. It's definitely not bandwagoning. It's more so me criticizing the living hell out of Kingdom Hearts 3 as a console sequel, not as its own game. I think Kingdom Hearts 3 is a great game though, but just a terrible sequel to Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, which there are reasons for those. Also, no, I didn't just play a few, skip a few, and play 3. I've played them all on their respective consoles. I've sold consoles to get the latest Kingdom Hearts game. I've played Kingdom Hearts 1 when I was 3 in 2002. So a great deal of my life has been memories of this game. No wonder I'm half dumb. Anyways, before I get into this, I just want to say you have every right to love Kingdom Hearts 3 even if the flaws don't bother you as much as the longtime fans of the series. Just be civil in the comments is all I'm saying, because I know how frustrating for some people it can be to not be in agreement with stuff you think or you feel strongly about, especially as a KH fan. But I hope we can be civil. Hope. Also, I know I already made a review of Kingdom Hearts 3, but I felt like I was being too naive since it was my first review, and I wasn't going as hard on the game as I should have been, and it was also my first playthrough of the game, so I didn't really realize the flaws until I actually came back with critical mode. But anyways, let's just get into it. So in this section, I'm not taking into account Disney worlds in the game because let's face it, it's more just filler in the game.
With mine! Need to look.
Oh, damn. You just yoted on him? Damn, I just yeeted on him. Oh,
I talk more about this in the next section, so I'll just be talking towards the main story in this one. KH3 probably has one of the quickest stories in a console release while taking away the filler. Honestly, do this for any other console release of like what you find to be filler in those games, and you'll find the same results. Square goes out of their way to spit in your face by not paying actual voice actors to voice Alias and Dylan. Sure, they didn't need to talk, but at least Alias could have said something snarky to Riku after what happened to him in Calm, but people not having VAs and cutscenes is the first I've seen in a Kingdom Hearts game, and really shouldn't be acceptable, especially in a console release. Well, besides the Monstro flashback cutscene in Kingdom Hearts 1, which I feel like more so fits the cutscene in Kingdom Hearts 1, I know there's also Xemnas as a secret boss in there, but again, he's just added content for the final mix edition. Same thing with Lingering Will, and he has like a little cutscene too, but those were more so added additions, while Kingdom Hearts 2 and Birth by Sleep were still in development, so they more than likely didn't have voices for them yet. But they were also added content in the final mix version, so it's more so understandable they're not just nodding at you and weren't part of the main story for those games, which is why I have a problem with Alias and Dylan not having voices in Kingdom Hearts 3, because they are actually part of the main story and they just don't talk. And actually, speaking about Lingering Will, where the hell did he fly off to? Alright, continuing on. Why is Riku so boring in this game? Like, throughout the series, he was an interesting character, but rather than him doing something cool in this game, you fight the Shadow Tower for the 5th or 6th time in both visits and almost get defeated. Keep in mind, he kept all of his 3D abilities and had a Mickey Mouse, which destroyed Darksiders with one effing hit with his Keyblade in the Realm of Darkness before. So I don't know why all of a sudden they can't just defeat one Tower Heartless in the Realm of Darkness. Especially since Mickey had like no abilities wiped throughout 1, 2, and then going into 3 and throughout the in-between games. So I don't really understand this. Like, I really don't. They should have been able to handle this. So rather than Riku saving Aqua, it had to be Sora for some weird reason. Like, don't you think if Riku would have saved Aqua around mid-game, it would have paced the game a little bit better by keeping things fresh and interesting and keeping you engaged in the story. I would think so. But everything at the end, I really did enjoy it. It was really satisfying besides Langing Well blasting off.
Gotta blast!
A couple of things that were off to me, however, was Kyrie getting grabbed again, Ven and Roxas not interacting, not being able to go back and talk to the people that Sora just saved. I guess they really were on a VA budget. Also, I did find it a bit strange for the final boss not to be a 3-part boss this time around. Or wait, technically it is, but you get what I mean. Between KH1 and 2, some of the weirdest and coolest shit came out of those 3-part bosses. I'm also not saying that's a flaw, it's just strange, that's all I'm saying. And it's just weird to me as a longtime fan. The one thing at the end I found that really annoyed me was the secret movie part. How Union Cross was implemented more so at the end. I'm someone who really did not like that 1-hour movie because it was full of uninteresting characters that were dumb and gullible. Oh wait, where have I heard this tale before? But honestly, the secret movie was a slap to the face to any longtime fan of the series because it fails to really get you hyped for the next game. It just is like, hey, some more interesting stuff is going to happen in the next one. See you in the next one. On the other hand, the Venom Rex / The World Ends With You trailer was honestly super hyped to me, and it really feels like the series is going back to its roots with the mysterious atmosphere of the first games, which is what I love. And I'm extremely hyped to see where the series goes in Kingdom Hearts 4 with some of their worlds, because that trailer definitely looked ambitious to say the least. Replayability. Now this one is a big one. With every Kingdom Hearts game for the most part, I've been able to consistently replay them besides Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, I don't know if I have more fun with Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 due to nostalgia because I really enjoyed those games, but every time I pick up Kingdom Hearts 3, it feels like nothing happens until the end of the game, which for some reason they made most Disney / Pixar worlds in this, like the stories, feel like they're filler and add nothing to the overall plot of the game. So don't get me wrong here, I think the ones that continue them were great, but not being able to fight actual enemies / villains besides like in 2 worlds really make you feel cheated here. And I really think they took the easy approach just by putting Heartless that just do a bunch of explosion damage in those worlds just so they didn't have to design an actual carefully crafted boss that's memorable to the player that would make them want to come back, but that this game just doesn't do that. And I'm talking more so about Kingdom Hearts 2 here rather than 1 because there's a range of bosses that you just hate, and especially Ursula. I hate her so much. This isn't just a boss problem though. It's also a story problem as well, since Sora, Donald, and Goofy were more outcasts than actually being part of the plot. Like, you collect effing crabs instead of actually engaging in the plot of the Pirates world. Like I said priorly, the ones that continue the story actually were good because you contributed to the plot. Prior games like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 Sword Dog Goofy actually contributed to plot like the ones that continued the worlds in Kingdom Hearts 3, rather than it playing exactly like the movie. Kingdom Hearts 1 had Disney villains be directly involved with the overall plot, which was great, and Sword Donald and Goofy not being outcasts of the plot of that world, even though they weren't exactly supposed to be meddling.
Muddling?
But you, as the player, actually feeling engaged and involved with the plot will actually make you want to replay the game more, rather than not feeling like you were engaged at all and just having it play like a movie. And really good examples of making sure Sword Down Goofy are engaged in the plot are actually in Kingdom Hearts 2 with like Tron's world and then Mulan's world especially. Kingdom Hearts 3 just fails to do this, and I really don't know the reason, but everything just plays out like the movie, which has me wondering, why were they there in the first place? So I don't exactly want to be bored to death replaying something that fails to make the main characters of the game be involved with the story. And before someone says, Organization 13 appears in this world, but they're just as involved with the plot as Sora, Donald, and Goofy are. Kingdom Hearts 2 actually had some of those characters in those worlds be involved with the plot in the overarching story of Kingdom Hearts. Like Belle Rose getting stolen from an organization member, and then Belle stealing it back. Demix stealing the Olympus coin, or even just trying to find the traitor doing scout missions, you know?
But it would seem someone of evil intent disturbed one of our dragons and transformed it into what you call a Heartless. It is my belief that this young man came to warn me of that danger. Then I could alert and prepare my troops.
Did you?
I was about to, but he told me this situation had changed.
He said 3 wise guys had arrived, and they would take care of things.
I can keep going on about this, but I think I rested my case on the story replayability aspects, and why it's not so, like, oh yeah, I want to go back and play Kingdom Hearts 3. There isn't really enough there for you to go back as the player to re-see these moments. As for gameplay replayability, it's the equivalent of Kingdom Hearts 2 replayability, where there is 12 battle rushes with a boss on the last one, which I would say is more so like on the equivalent of the Cups and Sephiroth being, you know, a secret boss. But the one thing that does with like the battle rushes does bother me is more so that content there is more so lackluster, like compared to 1 and 2, where you had actual Final Fantasy characters in between, like in those cups. Like you could fight Leon and Yuffie at one point, and Cloud in certain points too. It's really cool, and it feels like they kind of were like, all right, we gotta add something for Endgame, and this is what they came up with. It's not terrible, just I would have liked something like the cups again, but I digress. You got the Fantastic 7, which are the equivalent of Mushroom 13, a bunch of mini games, and not as obviously annoying as Mushroom 13. They're pretty easy, but to an extent, I do find some of these mini games to be like a weird, clunky tech demo, just on the way they control. I'm not saying they're terrible, it's just the clunky controls, like the sled the sled in the Olympus world, and then the sled in the Frozen world. So again, it's the equivalent of Kingdom Hearts 3 replayability, but it's just a bit better in terms of what it adds to Endgame. And just so we make this clear, I'm not talking about Final Mix, I'm talking about like base Kingdom Hearts 2. Which is the one that originally came out for the West. When we didn't even get Final Mix until 2013 and 14. So if you needed more of a clarification.
What you forgot, you never see it come back. It's over. You say that my mind is the best for eyes. You're done now. But the time is hit you, you're not surprised.
I tried and attempted to get through critical mode before I was done editing this video, but it's such a goddamn chore. I've beaten every other Kingdom Hearts game on the hardest difficulty, and with KH2 on level 1, which sure, I broke a controller on KH2 level 1, but that was my 100th attempt on the Horde before the Garden of Assemblage. KH3 manages to make every single fight like that. It's not that it's as difficult as the Horde before the Garden of Assemblage, but the amount of inconsistencies that happen with the enemies. Like, for example, there's Harlows that can one-hit you across the map, which sure, the next thing you would think is to handle them first, but sometimes there's like 3 or 4 of them in the same area, so it becomes impossible to account for all of them. Also, since magic was nerfed to the ground, your only option is to use links rather than trying to have fun with combos. Also, enemies that don't stagger if you do a regular combo on them, it either has to be a link or a Keyblade transformation to stagger them for some reason. It becomes very unenjoyable to even fight hordes in the game, also being completely vulnerable while doing a finisher or going out of a Keyblade transformation finisher, which is very annoying. Which this was something that was present in 3D with when you use an ability, an enemy can attack you, but that was sort of understandable to an extent because then you'd just be constantly pressing triangle to stay invincible. But this isn't the flawed command deck, but in fact it's the regular battle system like in KH1 and 2, so it really makes no sense to not be invincible doing these finishers, or you can just get one hit while in mid finisher, you not being able to do anything. But with bosses it's hard to realize if they are vulnerable or not half the time. The indication is them just staring at you rather than doing something to know they are vulnerable, like an indication. Like blocking and then countering and then the boss indication to indicate that they are vulnerable would solve this rather than you going to attack them and then them just staring at you, which could mean they could retaliate or they're open because there is really no indication that that boss is open to be attacked at that point. So until or if they fix these problems, I won't be playing critical mode, and if they do fix these problems and these very big issues, then I'll give critical mode another try, but I just don't have the patience for it. I really don't. For a while, I've given Osaka Team the past with prior mistakes with Birth by Sleep in 3D, always thinking it was because they were on handheld systems. Like there wasn't enough memory on those systems to handle, let's say, a revenge value, or make bosses that didn't feel like you needed to dodge roll 1,000 million times until you land a combo. But I'm entirely convinced the team behind the combat system is very incompetent in making a good combat system that's actually balanced. KH1 and 2 gave action RPGs a spotlight, and especially given it a name for itself back in the day. But it just doesn't end there with the combat system, no. The story is just how things are portrayed and executed are just awfully done. And this isn't entirely Osaka Team's fault. Having a director so sporadic and then wanting to do very ambitious things can be extremely hard to hit everything, especially for the consumer's expectations. But criticizing it and giving it proper feedback can only lead to better experiences in the future. And I'm not saying I want another KH1 and another KH2, but something that exceeds both of them. And I see a lot of people saying that. And if you don't want something that exceeds Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, then you're crazy. Because that's what sequels should do rather than being overshadowed from prior releases. I look at games like Borderlands, and sure, it's completely different genre, but just seeing how much it has come. Borderlands 1 being pretty bad, to Borderlands 2 having a complete overhaul to being such an amazing game. If you've seen anything on Borderlands 3, it's looking like that's going to exceed Borderlands 2 in a lot of different ways, which is amazing, even though I am against a lot of the drama that's going on behind Gearbox and whatever. Like, I still can't deny Borderlands 3 will exceed Borderlands 2, in not just one way. And it was really hard to see that with Kingdom Hearts 3's trailer, especially most of them being early in development ones, especially with that 2014 one being like very wonky. I guess just some people thought looking at the graphical improvements that meant it would exceed Kingdom Hearts 2 but failed to do it. Don't get me wrong though, Kingdom Hearts 3 does add some great things like better world designs, and gummy ship missions compared to Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 are just amazing and really blow them out of the park and really give that a unique aspect. And I honestly truly think this is what the gummy ship missions always should have been, but weren't able to do it because of the limitations of the PS2. Also, NPCs in those worlds also give it a really nice touch. I just think Osaka Team needs to rethink how they should portray Kingdom Hearts' story while also including the plot into these worlds. Also, while reevaluating the combat system rather than trying to implement the command deck any way they can. Lastly, I don't think Kingdom Hearts 3 is a bad game. It's actually a great game, just a terrible sequel in comparison to prior console releases in the series. Hey yo, so this is the end of the video. This video took me about a week and a half, I think, to make. I'm happy I finally edited it all, and it's done for your viewing pleasure. And by now, you've probably already viewed the video. What'd you think about it? Put it in the comments down below. Like, piecing this entire thing together and listening to my voice over and over again, I want to cry. But it's done. It's done. And here I am just rambling on because I'm actually happy that it's done. I hope I was able to convey a message here, or some sort of criticism for so I could seem to get their crap in gear. Which, I mean, I really need to get my crap in gear 'cause half of my voice in this video was kind of shitty. I don't know if it's something like because I was reading a script, but yeah. I just did not expect the amount of editing I put into this. Oh my god. I at least hope visually you got what I was saying, 'cause I'm terrible at explaining things. Alright, well, if you enjoyed it, like it, feel like subscribing. Subscribe to see more content like this. My next video should be a lot more positive. I just want to get my final thoughts out there before Remind came out. And also, I think you're probably wondering, was I one of those people who were anticipating this game for 13 years? No. For 5 years, sure, but not 13. Again, Kingdom Hearts 3 is a good game. Just terrible in terms of a console sequel and what people were leading this up to be, and that's kind of the way I look at it too, in terms of like how Kingdom Hearts 2 was. It really blew Kingdom Hearts 1 out of the park, but then you got all these other games that people were coming into. Like, I heard that people's first game was 3D, and that shocks me, because like, I played Kingdom Hearts 1 when I was 3. Like, oh my god. Like, I just can't imagine people actually coming into the series on 3D knowing what the hell is going on. I mean, sure, there's summaries, but oh my god. I just hope the video was able to convey what I found to be terrible in this game and why they should improve it, because with even 3D and Birth by Sleep, like, the stories didn't really matter in the Disney World. Sure, there were connections here and there, but it was like, yeah, these don't matter to the overall plot. Like, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 did. So, I just hope they fix it for Kingdom Hearts 4. I'm actually kind of hyped for Kingdom Hearts 4, or whatever the next project is. So, yeah, I'm gonna stop wasting your time. See you guys in the next one. Peace.